Thanks for having me, Kathy.
So how are things in Thailand? I mean, Thailand has 19 confirmed cases, the second largest number outside China, followed by Singapore.
Good question. Very cautious. I was downtown on the weekend, and obviously precautionary masks were everywhere. And I think people are really taking it to heart. And it was a little bit slower than usual. The shops weren't so busy, so I think that's another fallout that we're probably going to have to wear up here in Bangkok, given the tourism effect.
Yeah, and the focus right now is on China's markets, and China's preempting what could well be a huge sell-off when the markets start trading from 9:30 a.m. In about 20 minutes, just injecting about $170 billion into the markets. To what extent do you see this keeping the markets an even keel?
Well, I think it's calming. I think you're going to have arguments that it's, not going to be sufficient enough by a lot of people. I also think you're going to have arguments suggesting that even if they do try to stimulate the economy more aggressively, either through monetary or fiscal policy, the fact that cities are locked down and people are burning in apartments is not going to be too effective. I kind of agree with that. However, we also have to take the view here that the Chinese government is absolutely not going to roll over and accept defeat. If the economy starts going down, they're going to basically throw everything, including the kitchen sink, at the economy. And we're starting to see that happen. And I think that's why we're seeing the markets a little bit calm, despite the fact we're probably going to open up considerably lower in the China markets today.
Yeah, we could probably get an indication from the onshore yuan. It trades at 10 past the hour. What are you seeing could be the impact on the onshore yuan? Because the offshore yuan carried on trading all throughout the Lunar New Year holidays, and it sank against the dollar to its lowest this year before recovering.
I think it's a good point. We're going to have to keep an eye on the fix. My view here is the currency manipulation currency intervention by the PBOC to guide the yuan a little bit stronger. They're definitely going to defend that line in the stand around 7. That's a significant mark, given the fact it could trigger capital outflows if we have a significant breach. So I think there's some precautionary moves expected from the PBOC and the currency markets as well.
So how are you assessing what could be the regional market reaction in Asia? The market's still left with questions on the economic impact as they compare the extent of the coronavirus to SARS.
Very much so. And this is the problem because of the close trade ties and how they've expanded so dramatically over the last 10 years since SARS. And that's the problem. We're left quantifying a real mess here. And obviously the knock-on effects are going to be quite negative. However, looking at the markets through the lens of SARS, they recovered quite quickly. Now, you almost have to look at this in two lights, however. Countries that were providing services, especially around tourism in China, could continue to suffer for a while. However, countries that are exporters and exporters of commodities could actually benefit going into the next part of the year, simply because of the pent-up demand coming out of China, if we do reach a transitory state in the virus conditions.
Which brings us to the ASEAN currencies. Which ones do you see most vulnerable versus the US dollar when markets defend the possible outflows when the Chinese markets reopen today?
Besides the yuan, that's obviously the one that's been in the limelight. But I think the two favorites, whipping boys right now, are the Thai baht and the Singapore dollar. Thai baht, obviously, the huge 20+% of GDP is dependent on tourists, and Chinese make up a big part of that. Singapore, likewise, so it's a small country, and it does depend on a lot of Chinese tourism, especially in the retail industry, shopping industry. So they're actually suffering. I also believe that both central banks are going to come and defend the economy to an extent. MAS let the doves fly back in 2003, and I think the Bank of Thailand is going to take some preemptive measures to loosen the financial conditions to buttress the negative impacts from the tourism fallout.
What about the Philippine Central Bank? It meets on Thursday this week. Do you think they might have to do some preemptive action?
I think a rate cut's in the cards. Also, I think conditions are right too. Inflation's not running out of hand. So I think the bank's going to move in that direction.
So where do investors see cover now as markets wait for that peak contagion or capitulation, as it were? I mean, gold's been resilient and oil's been one of the assets that's more oversold than others.
I agree, Kathy. I think it's obviously very difficult to tell where we're going to be at the end of the week here. We don't know if we're going to reach a a state of peak fear, and that's really what it is. It's peak fear, not peak virus. It's the fear that's getting embedded into the markets that's really driving sentiment. Regardless, I think the issue around virus and the amount of bandwidth that's being spent is really papering over a lot of issues in the markets right now. Brexit concerns, the U.S. election concerns. I think gold really stands out here. It looks like we could get a dovish impulse from the Fed. The U.S. dollar would likely weaken as U.S. election risks escalate, as will the U.S. market. So even despite, if we do get a lesson of the virus case, I think gold continues to shine in these markets, and I think that'll be the go-to defensive strategy.
All right. Thank you so much for the assessment there, Steve. Be well and hang in there. Steve Innes of Axicorp in Bangkok.